Here we go. It was a dark and dreary night in the Atchafalaya swamp, and old Mr. Homer was in his swamp shack fixing his supper. He was very hungry and grouchy. Mr. Homer had a pot of hot steaming crawfish, spicy potatoes, and corn to eat. He had a very hard day and was looking forward to eating his supper and then going to bed. Mr. Homer was tired after a long day of looking for the perfect alligator to be placed in the Audubon Zoo in New Orleans, Louisiana. Well, an alligator named Amos lived in the swamp near Mr. Homer's swamp shack. Every day, Amos would swim around, searching for food and watching Mr. Homer. Amos knew what Mr. Homer was up to, so he stayed under the water most of the time. Amos floated motionless for hours. He looked like a drifting log. Amos loved to swim gracefully, using back and forth movements of his tail. He thought he was the smartest alligator in the swamp. Although Amos was 5 years old, he was 6 feet long and he weighed 200 pounds. Oh, he was a big old alligator. Well, Amos had a small friend, and his name was Bud the Bullfrog. And Bud always plopped himself between Amos's eyes because that is where he felt safe. Bud was scared of Mr. Homer, too, because he thought if he caught Amos, he would catch him, too. Well, Amos and Bud floated along in the swamp, and they were spying on Mr. Homer, eating his crawfish and listening to his radio. Bud croaked, "Amos, let's not get too close to that man's shack. We better go closer to the bank over there behind that big tree." Behind the tree, they both fell asleep for the night. The next morning, they awoke to a beautiful sunrise. Amos swam up on the bank. He wanted to bask in the sun for a while before heading back deep into the swamp. Bud jumped off Amos's head to catch a buzzing mosquito for breakfast. Amos just enjoyed the sun's rays beating down on his back. Bud asked, "Amos, do you want to make another mud alligator?" Amos said, "Yes, let's make a mud alligator." Amos slowly backed up in the water. He took his front leg and began to dig a small hole in the mud. Amos started pulling some thick clay, broken twigs, and mossy grass out of the hole. He said, "We can build the alligator right here on this bank."